Well, I'm in favor of health care reform. I'm certainly opposed to what Obama and the Democrats passed, which is not reform.
Hello, I'm Freeland, and this is the Freeland File. My guest this week is Grover Norquist, the president and founder of Americans for Tax Reform, and the author of a new book, Debacle: Obama's War on Jobs and Growth and What We Can Do Now to Regain Our Future. Mr. Norquist is described by his friends and foes alike as one of the, if not the, most influential figures in the American right. And it is a real pleasure for me to have a chance to talk to him today. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Norquist.
Good to be with you.
So I wanted to start with the issue of the moment, which is the debate about health care reform in the Supreme Court. What's your prediction? How is the court going to rule?
Well, Obamacare, having the government become dramatically more involved in what kind of health care you're allowed to have and what you're going to pay for it, is a very bad idea. What the Supreme Court is deciding is whether it's also unconstitutional for the government to mandate what kind of health care you're going to purchase and how much you're going to pay for it. So I think it's probably unconstitutional. I think it should be unconstitutional, but if it's ruled constitutional, it's still a bad idea and should be repealed.
You're not going to make a prediction, though?
Oh, I'm not a lawyer. I'd be guessing.
Okay.
The Supreme Court says a lot of things that strike me as awfully odd, so I'm not sure I could correctly tell you what they're going to do.
You did say you think it's probably unconstitutional. Now, why is that, given that the government does have a lot of authority to get involved in our economic lives, and after all, healthcare is a highly regulated business, and if we choose not to have healthcare as an individual, you're actually imposing costs on everybody else. So why shouldn't the government have a right to regulate that?
Well, that would be an argument for the government regulating any and all parts of your life. The government could regulate what you eat, because if you gain weight, you might cost them money. Or when the government says we're going to take over part of healthcare, and then it turns out that the part of healthcare the government runs becomes very, very expensive because it's free to consumers, although not free to taxpayers, and therefore the government has to pass new regulations in order to force people to behave differently than they behave because they were handing out free stuff paid for by other people. Whenever the government makes a mistake, it causes problems that the government then argues, oh, now we need more powers and more of your money to fix the mistake we just made. Did we pass a law saying that banks have to make bad loans and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are going to get in trouble? Well, then we're going to have to steal $1 trillion from the American people and give it to other people as part of a stimulus package to fix the problem we just created. There's no end to what a government could do if it gets to fix every boneheaded, dumb move that it made before because it caused a problem. The Constitution has a limited number of things the federal government's allowed to do, and forcing you to buy health care as described and defined and legally circumscribed by the federal government doesn't actually exist or appear anywhere in the Constitution.
Now, Mr. Norquist, is your opposition, and maybe if I can ask you to speak more generally for the right, for Republicans, is your opposition to health care reform because you believe it's unconstitutional, or you just think it's a bad idea even if the court were to rule that it's constitutional?
Well, I'm in favor of health care reform. I'm certainly opposed to what Obama and the Democrats passed, which is not reform. We need to have tort reform. The trial lawyers make a lot of money suing doctors, suing hospitals, suing drug manufacturers. We have fewer life-saving drugs because these trial lawyers are getting rich suing people and making it difficult and expensive for new drugs to come online in a timely basis. That needs to be fixed.
Okay, but when it comes to the issue that's being debated right now, President Obama's health care reform, is your concern that it's not constitutional, or that it's just a bad idea even if it turns out to be ruled constitutional?
Both. I mean, it's both. There are lots of things that are constitutional that are very destructive. Obamacare is bad. It's already raised the cost of health care, not lowered it, as Obama said it would. It's damaging everybody's ability to keep their health care. If you have a health savings account, Obama's taxing your health savings account into oblivion. If you have a flexible savings account, Obama's new laws will destroy and damage your flexible savings account. He's gone out and played smash mouth with a lot of the insurance and private sector consumer-driven health care that people want. He's destroying that with his taxes and regulations, and he's taking away people's options, which is what he said he wouldn't do, but exactly what he did do. He's passed new taxes on lower and middle income people to pay for all of his government spending. He promised that his health care plan would be written in public in front of C-SPAN cameras. It was written in the dead of night with special interests writing the actual legislation. You and I weren't allowed to see it, as Nancy Pelosi said, until they'd written it and passed it. So instead of having it online, as Obama said he would, and he lied, as Pelosi said she would, and she lied, they specifically sprung it because they didn't want people to see what was in it. And the more we see about what's in it, the better we understand why they didn't want to share that information with people.